Morning as we go to the Tanya of the Chitas of today. We go to the Chumash of the day. Today is Friday. We're holding the sixth reading of the portion of Vizayis Habracha. We're holding in chapter 33, verse 27. Which are the abode for God who precedes all, and below who are mighty are the mighty ones of the world. He expelled the enemy from before you. And he said, destroy. Rashi says the meaning of this verse. The skies are an abode for God who precedes Kedem, all other deities. He selected the skies above as his residence and abode, while all strong men live below him. Zerayas Elam, who are the mighty ones of this world, the arms of this world. This is the Sifana, who were the kings of Canaan, who were considered the strength and mighty of the world, superpowers. Therefore, despite themselves, they will tremble and quake, and their power would dwindle for God. The fear of one who is above always falls upon one who is below. And thus, he whose power and might belong in ones who helps you, and who and he said to you, destroy them. May honor every word that requires a lamed as a prefix, and instead have the hey as the end. Sometimes in Hebrew you can put the lamed li honor or may honor. So liman, may honor means because of. Verse 28, Vayishkan Yisrael Betach, and the Jewish people dwell in safety. Badad Ein Yankov, they are alone as Jacob, as the eye of Jacob. El Eretz Dogim V'Sirash, in a land of grain and wine. Of Shamav Yarfu Tol, also their heavens will drip dew. Rashi says, Badach Betach, every single individual will dwell safely, each man under his own vine and under his own fig tree. And the security will be so sound that they'll have no need to live together in a group because of their enemies. They'll be able to live in total safety. Ein Yankiv, the word Ein, the same meaning here as referring to the manna. The Einai means its eye, its appearance. It's like an appearance of crystal. So Ein is like an appearance. So the verse comes to teach us that the blessing here of Israel dwelling Badad is like an appearance of a blessing that Jacob blessed. Not like the meaning of the word Badad in Jeremiah, that dwelled alone. But like the appearance and the promise of secure dwelling. That means that really they're not going to live alone, but they're going to live like alone. They won't need to have to come on to security of others or to secure themselves. They will each be living comfortable. Yarfu Yatifu will drip on them. Some of Yarfu Tal. What does this verse also, we say also Af? It means also Isaac's blessings will be added to that of Jacob, which states, and God will give you the dew of heaven. That was Isaac's blessing. That God will give us the dew of heaven. Verse 29. Ashrecha Yisrael. Fortunate you, Israel. Micha Meicha, who is like you? Am Noisha B'Hashem, a people whose salvation is through God. Magin Ezrecha, he's a shield that helps you. V'asher cherev gavasecha, and your majestic sword. V'yichush roivecha, your enemies will lie to you. lach to you. Va'ata b'sena tidach, but you will tread upon heights. Rashi says, after Moshe specified the blessing to Israel, he says, why do I have specified all these details? In general, everything is yours. Ashrecha Yisrael, your salvation depends on God, who is a shield that helps you and the sword of your majesty. Your enemies will lie down for it, like an instance of the Gibeonites, who said, your servants are come from a distant land. They came to bow down to you, and you will tread upon heights. This means that you will crush their necks barefoot under their neck underfoot. To me, a place of feet upon the necks of kings. That completes the Chumash of today. Continue the Tanya, the 23rd letter with the Alter Rebbe is explaining the concept of asara, when a mitzvah is done in the midst of 10, and the power in a comparison when a mitzvah is done with somebody who does it by himself. So now the Alter Rebbe said what happens, explained what happens when a Jew does a mitzvah. He has the concept that he receives reward. And since it's a reward, so every mitzvah that a person does comes according to the correspondent of the way he does the mitzvah, the way he does it with his body, the way he does it with his soul, the way he does it with his intellect, and therefore all these components are limited. But then it says that when a Jew does a mitzvah, comes together, he learns Torah in the midst of 10. So when 10 are sitting in the learning Torah together, the Mishnah says there's a hashras hashchina. There's a indwelling. Hashra means an indwelling. What's the meaning of the word hashra? Meaning the degree of indwelling of which it's written, the Shechina dwells amongst them. The Eibishter comes into them. This is an intense radiance. From the light of God, which shines in the Jewish people. The ray doesn't come from us, it comes from the Eibishter. And it comes from God in an intense way without limits or end. And therefore, it cannot become invested, integrated, internalized in the finite soul, but encompass it from above. This light shines on every Jew that's part of the minyan, every Jew that's part of the 10 people that come and learn. This light comes upon him and it surrounds him. And again, we learned in Chassidus, surrounds him doesn't mean that it's not within him. It's called surrounding him because it's not something that can come within him in a vessel. It's in there, it's in him at the same time as it's above him, from head to toe. So that all levels of a faculty of the soul, from the highest to the lowest, are surrounded by this infinite light. And that's the power of a minyan. As our sages of blessed memory said, the Shekhinah hovers over every gathering of 10 people. It comes from above. Just as the Shekhinah hovers over the Jews in an encompassing manner, even when they're not studying Torah. So too, even with regard to the indwelling of the Shekhinah that is brought about the congregational Torah study, this illumination of the soul being infinite must be primarily transcendent. And that's why it is transcendent. Even though it comes in the midst of the Jewish, it's a transcending light. As we say in another verse, may the pleasantness of the Lord our God be upon us, aleinu. Established upon the work of our hands. What does that mean? The Alter Rebbe explains this verse. We ask the pleasantness of God. Asher fia b'mas yedenu, which has been pierced through the work of our hands, in our involvement in Torah study and in commandments. The Draisa v'kutshabericha kulachar Torah and God are entirely one. So therefore, when we learn Torah, we are doing the work of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We are holding the so to say godliness in itself. Yiskein v'yishra aleim al-mayla, become established. It should become established to rest upon us from above in an encompassing manner. Why are we looking for an encompassing manner? Why are we looking at it in a pneumistic manner? Because we're looking for B'li Gevul. We're looking for an infinite power. We're not looking for a power in earth that can come in a vessel, and a light that can be vested in a vessel. We're looking for an encompassing light. We're looking for a transcending light. We're looking, as we always look for Atzmas, we're looking for the essence. Li is built B'li Gevul. We're looking for infinity. We're not looking for finite. We're looking for B'li Gevul. We are not looking for things that we can, that only can fit in our mind, even though most of us do that way. Expression of the Kotzker Rebbe said, "I know a God that I know is a God I don't want. I want to have something that transcends me. I want to have the Eibishter that transcends me. I want the Eibishter that's finite. That's what the nations of the world wanted. They want to have a finite God, a God that you can put in the image. We want an infinite God. We want a transcendent concept. And therefore, we want to have a relationship with God, not the way we understand him or the way we comprehend him. No, we want a relationship with God the way he's an infinite way, the way he's above our seichel, the way he's greater than our comprehension, greater than our souls. Okay, and therefore, since we want a relationship with God, the way he transcends any aspect of knowledge, ain't on him. This is why we don't apprehend, because we don't want to apprehend. With our intellect, the delightfulness and the sweetness. Therefore, ultimately, we don't really get the real neimus. That's why Yinoyam Hashem. We beg the Eibishter. We ask God that God should give us this sweetness, because we don't apprehend it. Because it's so high, this sweetness that God gives us with every mitzvah that we do, with every learning that we learn, and especially when we do it together. Sweetness is so powerful that we can't even comprehend the sweetness. The pleasantness of God and the ultimate splendor of the Shekhinah, we have no comprehension. Above our comprehension. But ultimately, that's what happens. The Eibishter gives us a sweetness that's higher than our understanding and establishes and rests upon us the work of our hands. That was the blessing that Moshe Rabbeinu gave the Jewish nation. It be the will that the Shekhinah should rest in the work of your hands. You should not only see the beauty, the physical beauty, and even the spiritual beauty that you comprehend. You should receive, you should have the Shekhinah, you should have a transcending light that comes in the work of your hand. The Torah mitzvahs that happen, Dafkin Alvid is talking about through the learning of Torah and mitzvahs when you do it in a setting of 10 and more. Because when you do it in a setting of 10 and more, then the pleasantness of God is there. Whether you comprehend it, whether you can or you don't comprehend it, really you can never comprehend the ultimate pleasantness of God that is in the room. But the presence of God, the Eibishter, is smiling and he's bringing about a great joy and satisfaction. And therefore our sages said, that the real reward of a mitzvah is not in this world. Real reward of a mitzvah is not in the meaning that it might be in this world, but this world cannot feel this the beauty of the mitzvah. The world is not capable to be able to incorporate in their seichel this true delight that's happening in the world at the present time. There's a true delight that's happening right now, but the world cannot see it, cannot feel it. Since the world is finite, it cannot be a scepter for the infinite revelation of divine radiance that is called forth by the performance of mitzvahs. Because it's impossible for the world to attain it, the reward of the infinite light. Goes only when the guf and the nefesh leaves the guf. And then in Gan Eden, it can receive a greater light. And even then, even then, the soul is still finite. The soul is able to receive this light only by the wage of grace. The Eibush is a chesed Hashem. Because it's such, even the soul is finite in comparison to the oir that he accomplished through that mitzvah when he did it in a group of 10. And that's why it says, the verse says, you have the ultimate of kindness, God. You reward according to his work. You give everybody, even though they still, even Gan Eden, their souls cannot receive this delight. The Eibishter gives them a little bit more of delight. Because the Eibishter has chesed, meaning granting every person an infinite degree of illumination according to his work in Torah mitzvahs and the acts of God, God's kindness. I'm sorry, and it is an act of kindness on God's part. Because of Rabbi Seinu Zachar Levracha, as a Seder stay taught, Shakadosh Baruch Hu neisten koyach b'tzadikim. The only one blessed be He gives the righteous the capacity to receive in the world to come. So even the gift, even then, even in the Mashiach comes, and then we're going to see Gilui Lakus. Maybe then we will have a delight in godliness. That is also a gift. Is needed for even after the soul divests itself in its body, divests itself of its body, and it's finite, while the reward that is received is infinite. And this, however, this not so however in the angels, which are capable of receiving an infinite degree of revelation. So we ultimately are higher than angels. As I heard from my master, meaning the Baal Shem Tov, the Maggid of Mezitch, if one angel were to stand in the presence of the gathering of 10 Jews, the Baal Shem Tov taught that if one angel would stand in the presence of a gathering of 10 Jews, even if they were not talking words of Torah, it was just 10 Jews getting together. Still, since the Shekhinah rests upon every gathering of 10 Jews, people all of Ema befachad beligvul, such a boundless and infinite terror and dread would then befall him. Because I counted the Shekhinah that's in the midst of these 10 Jews. The angel will become nullified, already nullified. Shem Tov learned, Shem Tov taught his teaching. Sanctity of 10 Jews congregating together, even if they're not engaged in the Torah study, is so intense, the angel would become utterly nullified when confronting the indwelling of the Shekhinah that abides in the presence of 10 Jews. 10 Jews are sitting together and having a bear. A malach would not be able to handle 10 Jews sitting together. Wow. Sefer Sichos, the Frierdiker Rebbe Leitzer, when his father taught him this letter for the second time, and they came to the above theme of the superiority of the souls of angels, you know that I heard this from my masters. Alter Rebbe said, my masters, refers to both the Baal Shem Tov and Maggid Mezitch. When it says usually, I heard from my teacher, then the Alter Rebbe means the Maggid of Mezitch. So Maggid Mezitch was his teacher. Baal Shem Tov was not his teacher. The Baal Shem Tov was the He used to call him Zayda. But when he said the masters, Shalom Dov Ber went on to say, I mean, the Frierdiker Rebbe's father went on to tell him that this theme is one of the laws that are studied in Gan Eden. Wow. Then, having shared with him 8 narratives of the law studied in Gan Eden, Rebbe Rashab told his son things that are studying Gan Eden. He concluded, all this is discussed in Tanya in order to encourage the establishment of the daily study of groups in Ein Yaakov, concerning which the Alter Rebbe states that most of the secrets of Torah are concealed in it, and moreover, it atones man's sins. Ein Yaakov is the stories of the Gemara. So they took all the stories of the Gemara and they put it in the book Ein Yaakov. That was the tradition. Jews would learn. Remember the beginning of this letter, the Alter Rebbe spoke that comes between Mincha and Ma'ariv. Jews would sit together because they needed to make a break between Mincha and Ma'ariv, because Mincha, you have to daven Ma'ariv usually later than Mincha. Ma'ariv has to be daven, Mincha has to be daven before the sunset, and Ma'ariv has to be really be daven by the three stars. So it was always a half an hour that Jews came and it was in shul. So the Alter Rebbe said, you need to take that time. You have already 10 Jews because you have a million, so you should sit and learn Torah. So he begged Yidden to learn, especially Shulchan Aruch, Code of Jewish Law, that's Torah Sheba'al Peh, and I give stories of the Gemara. I mean, when people came after Mincha, they had a hard day at work, and here they came to daven, and to give them very deep concepts would be very difficult for them. So therefore, Ein Yaakov is a beautiful part of, it's a beautiful book, because it's all the beautiful stories of the Gemara. But the Gemara doesn't tell the stories as a storybook self-understood. The Gemara had this very deep concepts in these stories. The Gemara wanted to tell a story to give us an illustration to something. And therefore, as the Alter Rebbe writes, as he writes over here, the Rebbe Rashab said that the Alter Rebbe begged people, established that people should learn Ein Yaakov. People should get together for half an hour and speaking, nice stories of the Gemara, but they should realize that the secrets of the Torah are hidden in these stories. At that time, too, the Rabbi Yisrael, the Frierdiker Rebbe, relates his father told him that the Chassidim of old used to include a part of their independently daily study of session, in addition to Mishnayos and a page of Gemara and a Tanya, a passage of Ein Yaakov. A passage of Ein Yaakov. Again, that's the book called Ein Yaakov, the stories of the Gemara, at least one law or 2 paragraphs from Shulchan Aruch. If a paragraph was too long, it was studied as one law through usually one law is divided into 2 or 3 paragraphs. So whatever the capacity of the group was to be able to handle the learning at night between Mincha and Ma'ariv, so that they would stay and learn a little bit Torah together as a minyan. So not only would they come to daven together in the shul, but with a minyan, but they would learn some Torah together with a minyan. And we try to do that too. We don't learn Ein Yaakov in between Mincha and Ma'ariv, but we do usually learn something over here in the shul over here between Mincha and Ma'ariv, 5-10 minutes. We say some halacha, some aspect in Jewish law. So to do this, first of all, to do what the Alter Rebbe writes that you should do, and but also to do with a minyan. So we daven with a minyan, and we learn Torah with a minyan, and self-understood as we just learned what happens when you daven with a minyan, when you learn Torah with a minyan, you bring about the revelation of godliness in the world. Alavai, we could have every time that we learn a minyan together, whether it's in a Chabad or here now, it would be unbelievable if we can do that, if we accomplish every time we learn, we have 10 people learning together, because now we realize, hopefully when we learn, we realize what happens, whether we see it or not. because we actually don't want to see this. We want to have a connection to godliness the way it transcends us. So therefore, that's what happens. And that's why we should try to do everything what we do with 10 people. Because you realize, as the Mishnah says, 10 people that come together, even if they don't learn, learn, a malach cannot stand in the midst of 10 Jews that come together, 10 Jews that come do a mitzvah together, 10 Jews that come and learn together, come and pray together. Can you imagine the presence of God that happens? And you don't even see the pleasantness of God that happens when that occurs. So we should realize the power, especially as I mentioned this year, Shnas Hakel, and the Rebbe begged. I saw a video last night. The Rebbe begging everybody to make gatherings. Everybody can do this year Hakel. Make a gathering in your house for your family, for your friends. A gathering of friendship. Doesn't have to be a gathering that's connected to anything but friendship. And that should be a gathering that you just take a couple of minutes. The Rebbe said, a couple of minutes. He's not asking that it should become he's not looking for a class. Don't make a gathering for a class. Make a gathering that people come together to enjoy themselves, to be together. That's Shnas Hakel. Hakel is that Jews come together to be with each other. And that's it. And then take 1 minute and say one word of godliness. Say one concept. That this gathering is that we all realize that we're Jews and we want a relationship with God. And that's what our gathering, that 1 minute is enough. That you give over some aspect of Torah. But the entire other gathering is just to be together. To come together, to be together. And that's what this year is about. Shnas Hakel. Let's get together. Let's be together. Let's make parties, not only in the synagogue, but each one in their own house. And everybody do this. Make a party in your house. You have a whole year now to make gatherings. Gatherings of your family, gatherings of your friends, gatherings in your own home. Make gatherings. Get together. Let's come together. I wish you all a wonderful Shabbos. You should do the chitas of the day tomorrow yourself, and actually tomorrow on Sunday we'll start again. We start again Zeis HaBracha. We start again this parsha. Even though Wednesday we're going to jump to Bereshis, but we're going to do chitas together on Sunday, not on Monday and not on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday we're going to jump to the Wednesday of Parshas Bereshis. So. I wish you all a wonderful Shabbos. I hope to see you all in Shul on Shabbos, wherever you are. Hope you all go to Shul on Shabbos, and we'll see you all in Mitch Shem.
Shana Rabbah is Sunday, isn't it?
Shana Rabbah is Sunday, correct. So we'll meet you at 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, we'll do chitats. We'll have to do it quickly because we have 8:30 davening. And I wish you all a wonderful